Waiting.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Issue at Hand. This is the show where we invite a guest on to join our panel to talk about their favorite comic, that one comic book that if they were stranded on a desert island, that's the one they'd want to bring with them. So tonight, along with our usual panel, we've got Hialeah Comic Bro as our special guest. How you doing, Hialeah?
I am doing great, man. Thank you so much for the invite. I am very excited.
Hey, we're really looking forward to this conversation. We'll go to our panelist, Coach Vic Seven. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Living the life.
Living La Vida Loca, right?
Yes.
And the fantastic Mr. Cheese. How are you doing, Mr. Cheese?
I am doing good, relatively sane right now.
That's good.
Really good.
So, two of the four of us are social distancing, but we'll let you guys get by. Hey, we want to shout out Bonafide Comics for stopping in. Glad to see you. We're just getting started, so thanks for coming. And tonight we're going to talk about X-Men 140. There it is. Ooh, you've got a signed copy there.
I got a sign and another one that I got a slab. I got them both.
Nice.
Freaking love this book.
My copy's got a pretty nasty spine roll. But you know how much I paid for this?
How much?
$25.
That can't be beat. I don't remember what I paid for this one. This is my original one. And I didn't pay $25. But it was probably maybe like $5, something like that. So
I did a video about my origin story with the X-Men, where I picked up pretty much almost all of the Claremont Burn run at a garage sale for $0.25 a piece.
Oh,
I got like 30 issues, something like that.
My goodness.
And we've got Rob Boswell stopping in. Good to see you, Rob, and the Mastodon coming to visit.
Donnie.
So, Hialeah, we kind of we choose our guests not necessarily wisely, but strategically to talk to people both inside and outside the community. We try and talk to some newer people or people outside the community completely, but we also want to talk to kind of community veterans and people we just want to get to know better, and that's why we've got you on tonight.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
So how long have you been doing the whole YouTube thing?
Well, I'm not a veteran. I've been about a month. I started I started December 24th, 2018.
Okay.
So a year and like 4 months.
Okay.
And so I don't consider myself a veteran, but I'm a newbie. But I'm in that. I'm a teenager.
Well, like I was saying beforehand, it seems like we kind of float in similar circles and kind of get in the same chats and things like that. So it sounds like you've got maybe 6 to 8 months on me. So to me, you're a veteran.
You're a toddler, right? You're a toddler, and I'm like a preteen. I'm a preteen, something like that.
So where was I going with that? I did have a question in mind. House till the end. Good to see you, bud. So what shows do you do? You've got a few regular appearances during the week.
Yeah, I got my on my channel. I do my Inquiring Minds, where it's an interview show, kind of like this. It's me and Javi Conquistador, and we kind of look at it the same way you guys do. We don't want to get just the people that we run with. Although I have had them on, a few of them, I've still got to finish those. I try to get people that I have never been with, don't know too much about. And so we do that on Wednesdays, no set time. We leave it open because a lot of, guests have different time zones or whatnot. Another show I do is I do Afternoon Delight. That's whenever we got something to talk about, and I do that in the afternoons. That's kind of more of a risque show, all bets are off.
But let me tell you, in this whole setting of social distancing and everybody staying home at work, your afternoon show is a great show. It's a great time killer. While I'm sitting here doing my day job work, being able to listen in and pop in and make a comment here and there in that chat.
Thank you.
And I listen while I play video games.
That show is a lot of fun, man, because it just kind of goes wherever it leads. I just never know what we're going to talk about.
That's so true.
Yeah. So what also shows? I'm on 90 MF Comics on Tuesdays at 9 on his channel. I do Silver Age Sundays on Conquistadorks on Sundays at 12. But I don't try to do it every week because we got like a huge panel, so that's about it. And then I pop in all over the place,
Yep.
But yeah.
So Coach Vic he's been my partner for a while, kind of like a producer role. So he's starting to get more into the community. Fantastic, Mr. Cheese. He likes to come to the show so he can read the comics.
That's a great reason.
Yeah.
So, Coach Vic, you have any questions or anything you want to say to Hialeah?
Oh man, nothing new. No. What other things are you interested in other than comics, or what? Yeah, what other things are you interested in?
Well, my family. I love being with my family. I don't see my kids as often as I wish because they're pretty much doing their own things. But I just love spending time at home, man. This whole quarantine is pretty easy, except for the fact that now my wife is here all the time and my daughter is too. So that's a little different. You get to be getting on each other's nerves a little bit, but I'm always home and I love being home. I love football, sports. I love YouTube, man. It's enriched my life like you wouldn't believe.
Right.
My wife, I always think myself as an introvert, but my wife is like, "You're no freaking introvert. You're always the life of the party. You're always you have like such a warped sense of your image, right?" But it's not that I'm an introvert. It's more that I'm very private. And this going live and putting myself out there, it's really strange. But I'm so happy because the friends I've met and it's just been it's been amazing. I would never in a million years would have imagined this, man. But you know what, Coach? Today you asked me a question on Instagram that you asked me, and the question was like, is it okay if I touch this subject? And when you said, I was like, wow, nobody's ever asked me about that. You want to, and I'm great to talk about it, but it was very you caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting. And I was like, wow, why? First of all, what question did you ask? And why did you ask me that question?
Well, part of my responsibility on the show is that I look up things that happened in the year the comic came out. Nice. And so this is 1980. I think this is our second time doing 80. So I was looking for different things that happened. And one of the things I came across was the Mario boat lift. And I thought that was interesting. It was mass exodus of Cubans to the United States. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if that was a touchy thing to ask about or mention or anything. Because if it was, I wouldn't mention it.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching out like that. What do you want to know about the Mario boat lift?
Well, what was it? Because I was intrigued that, first of all, that we made a deal in October. What kind of deal we made with Cuba, I don't know, to end it. But what was it?
Okay, I'm Cuban. First of all, I was born in America. My parents came over, I believe it was 65, and I was born in 69. And basically what the Mario boat lift was, they opened up, I don't know all the specifics. I just know the effect it had on me. Basically it was, they opened it up where people could come over and there was no restrictions. So living in Miami, this place went bonkers because Hialeah is like back then it was probably 98% Cuban, right? It's a suburb of Miami, and everybody that had a boat was getting on a boat to go to Cuba to pick up people off of Mariel. And Mariel is a port, and it's basically by Havana, right? Okay. So people were going over there, and boats were just picking up people. And what Castro did, a lot of people, a lot of family came over, but he also emptied his jails. And that's what he did, like the Tony Montana myth and all that. And he opened up the jails, and it was just a mass exodus of Cuba. I think it was somewhere in excess of 100,000 Cubans came. And this is like in 1 week or whatever. It was in a short amount of time because then they shut it down.
Yeah, I think it lasts like 4 months or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a long time, but it seemed like it was shorter, to tell you the truth. But it was just people getting, like my neighbor would go on his boat and bring people over, and it was just people you don't even know. It was family members. They would just throw people on boats. I heard the stories. I was 10 at the time, and that just changed everything down here, man. I remember going down to like a detention center, and it's just like Scarface. They were just there under the expressway with the fence, and you would be looking for family members. It was just a crazy time. Classrooms went from like 23 average to like over like 35 in a classroom, and kids didn't know how to speak English, and it was just a crazy time here, man. It's just like it went bonkers. That's when the whole cocaine stuff started. It was already evident, but people came over. There was a quick getting money, and it was just crazy.
Well, people need to get money to get ins.
Yeah, it was just a crazy time, man. But yeah, that's what the Mariel boat lift was, and it was just crazy.
If there's something I like more than comics, it's just learning stuff, and and hearing really kind of authentic stories like that, where you weren't necessarily involved in it, but you lived through it happening.
It was just my life changed. My life didn't change. It's just all the circumstances changed, because it went bonkers. And and then you would get us American-born Cubans, and then we would treat. It was sad to see, but we would look down on them because they just got over here, and there was a stigma with the Marielitos. And I'm thinking back now, and it's like, dude, it's just people are crazy. Or they look down on those people, and you shouldn't. Like, I don't know. Have you guys heard? I'm sure you've heard of them, the Balseros. What Balseros are? Okay, that's basically people that leave Cuba in inner tubes.
Okay.
Wow. And they come over, and people look down on those people, like second-class Cubans or whatever. And man, I have friends that have done that, that I've met here that have done that. And man, it's only 90 miles, but in a pitch black ocean in an inner tube.
That's crazy.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Anybody's leaving a place to come to another place, that place they're leaving is bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you should not look down on all those people. It's just, man, my parents left everything in Cuba to come here, man, and they didn't know a lick of English. They only knew my aunts that didn't know a lick of English, but they were here a month earlier. That's about it. We should never look down on those people. Haitians, man. Oh my God. Okay, we're going off track. I don't know. It just hurts me when people look down on those people, man. It's not what they choose. It's just what life's given them. We were just blessed to be born here, man. That's the difference.
Right.
All right. Well, here, I have a fun question for you then.
Yeah, no, I'm starting to sweat, man.
I'm intrigued. I can listen to you talk about this for hours because I'm just intrigued. But this will be a little lighter question. What's the most money you've ever won at Hialeah?
Man, I'm not a bettor. I've been to Vegas. I never bet in Vegas. I just don't bet. I lost once on a football game, and I learned my lesson. And I never bet again.
Dude,
I used to ride bike in the Hialeah racetrack. I remember I went one time on me and my friends went on the island where the flamingos are in the Hialeah racetrack. That's like Hialeah. That's what you're talking. Hialeah racetrack, right?
Yeah.
That's
yes.
Like that's like 5 minutes from where I grew up. I learned how to ride bike. I learned how to drive, like right next to there. I used to. Oh yeah, good times. Good times.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a betting man. I bet $50 on an Eternals 3 that had gone up in value after the Eternals announcement, and I lost. So
that's pretty much what I bet on too. I spec. That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. But
what I mentioned, Seawood 19 stopped in. Good to see you. And EIMB 1999 stopped in. Let's give my good friend Jim Small. What did you miss? We're just getting started, man. So all right. So let's start talking about this book. We're going to talk about Uncanny X-Men 140. So, Hialeah, where kind of tell us a little bit about the circumstances of how you came across this book. How were you first exposed to it?
It was right around that time when I got into comics, and I had gotten comics when I was younger, but I never started really getting into them until I got into, I believe it was like 4th grade, and I had a friend named Jose Campos, and this kid was just ahead of the curve. He was going to a shop that was down south, and he was getting Silver Age comics, and he was getting all the X-Men, and we would go to his house, and what is that? X-Men and X-Men and X-Men, and I just fell in love with it, man. X-Men. They revitalized Marvel when Giant Size came out, and this was people. If you didn't live through this time, you really didn't know how X-Men have always been big, but this was bonkers.
I thought about it in these terms the other day. There are two kind of X-Men fan. There is the kind that grew up during the Claremont Byrne era, and then there's the generation that grew up with the cartoon.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly, and this was like, oh my God! And then you would look at the art, and this team, this creative team, Jerry Austin, man, he never gets any credit, man. But that guy was him and Byrne.
Oh yeah.
Oof.
Austin, Byrne with Austin was always better than John Byrne by himself. Especially whenever he would ink himself.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree, and I think I just started getting the comics after that. I believe the first issue I ever bought for myself was X-Men 149, and then I went back and I started getting all the other ones. And then I fell in love with this guy that's on this first page. My favorite character is Colossus.
Yeah.
And that's just an amazing John Byrne Colossus right there, man. Picking up a log, it's just perfection, man. It's just so good.
Have you ever heard the story? And we covered X-Men 136 in our very first episode. That was my favorite comic.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about a little bit in that. But have you ever heard the story that there was a clash between John Byrne and Chris Claremont over the dialogue that went with that scene, and that's kind of what broke up the band?
I actually saw I started looking at your videos and your past ones, and I saw when you brought that up. I did not know that. I saw that today when you brought it up.
Oddly enough, who reminded me of it is actually Uncle Jerk that we had on last time. He did a video about just that. So, and he had like all the details about it. And I had heard it before on like comic book resources or something like that, but that was years ago. But yeah, the team up of Byrne and Claremont and Austin on the inks, yeah, you just couldn't get any better.
It's perfection, man. And people still talk about it. Like Kenny, 84. Yeah, I want to get that 94 to 143. Yeah. I think he wants to get more. I think he wants to go up to 300. I think that's what he says. But that 94 giant size 94 to 143 is just an all-time classic run, man. All-time classic run.
Yep. So you said this got you. This is on the upswing when you first got into it,
mm-hmm.
And then so how long did you collect the X-Men after that?
I collected until about 303. I have the full run. I got from 94 to I just went nuts. I loved it. I never missed an issue. And then I had kids, and I kind of like grew away. And the 90s started, and it was like, it's not the same.
Right. Yeah.
But, yeah.
So fantastic, Mr. Cheese. What's your first impression of this story that we read?
Well, so my ignorance showed with Coach Vic before we got onto the show, because I was saying, hey, dude, do you want to know what happened in 1963? That's when Spider-Man started. He's like, yeah. So I thought this was from 1963.
Oh,
So yeah, no, he corrected me on that one. I was just trying to, I was trying to get into it and like, how does this art style? Because I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my favorite. And again, I still don't own a single comic, but I read them, and so I was trying to compare it, like, hey, how does this compare to, the first Spider-Man? Apparently, I was really wrong on that, but I really liked it. It's, the color pops, the interaction. I loved Wolverine's with Wendigo. And just the one scene where he picks Wolverine up and it looks like he's gonna just snap him in half. And of course, I know, hey, Wolverine doesn't die here, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, has he ever been snapped in half? Can he recover from that one too? So it was good. I liked it.
To your point, you don't see Wolverine get his butt whipped anymore, like he does in this. Anymore, he does that to everyone else.
It's a great fight scene, right? It's a great fight scene.
Yeah, because he got knocked out or something.
Yeah, he got knocked out.
Yeah, so to me that's interesting. I've been reading more and more X-Men and all that kind of stuff, and I had actually read this. Days of Future Past? Is that what this is? Yeah, and so I'd actually read that before doing this, and for this show and stuff. But it was a good story. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It. Kind of makes me think back when I was really into comics back in the 80s.
Right.
Not the 60s, but the 80s.
This book actually goes into the Days of Future Past, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
If you read it in trade, it's part of the Days of Future Past trade.
Yeah. That's what I have it digitally in trade right now. So.
Oh, nice.
Shout out Gore Vidal and Dave Enrique. They've stopped in to watch the show. Thanks for stopping in, guys.
What's up, guys? Yeah, you know what I like? I like Thoro getting jealous of the other girl. With Kitty. You don't see that in comics now.
Oh yeah.
You don't see that in comics. Those little interactions. Even going back to the first page, Colossus taking out a tree stump. What is it? And it's just everyday things that they used to go through that you don't see in comics anymore.
Right. They used to play baseball in the quiet moments.
Well, it kind of goes to that, John Carpenter 80s movies where there's all these scenes, and sometimes you're like, man, those are just, not necessarily random, but they're just like an everyday kind of thing, and it doesn't always move the plot along, but it's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So, I should have prefaced that Fantastic Mr. Cheese, he's experienced reading comics, but he doesn't have a collection.
Right.
So, I don't want to say he's new to it. He's had some exposure, but he doesn't know all the ins and outs. So we use both him and the Coach Vic 7 to be kind of our lab monkeys, where they're the guys that know a lot less than the guys that have been in the stuff all our lives.
Well, don't worry. I'm no expert at all. I hear some channels like Rock and Robbie. Oh my God, his knowledge is just crazy. Metarog, and I'm nowhere like that, man. I'm nowhere like that.
So, what do you think of the book, Coach Vic 7?
The first thing I was intrigued, and since I don't have my book with me because I'm a bad student, I can't remember the name of the Canadian Justice League.
Alpha Flight?
Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
First of all, why waste a cool name there? I was really intrigued by this because it kind of reminds me of TV shows when they have Bizarro World,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, where'd this group come from? Like,
you never knew the Alpha. Oh my God, Alpha Flight's a great team, man. Created by John Byrne, a Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm thinking, does Canada have its own set of comic books of people that we don't know about? I mean, I was totally thrown for a loop about the whole Alpha Flight thing, but I was intrigued by that. But yeah,
I did find it strange that there wasn't any writing in the story from, expository stuff from Chris Claremont, who's like the king of doing expository text, to kind of to inform a new reader of who Alpha Flight was and where they're from and that kind of thing. He kind of just assumes that the reader knows.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a continuation from 139. I think someone put in and it's kind of like flows into this story.
Yep. So shout out to EIMB 1999. He is Canadian.
Nice.
Hey.
Yeah, for Captain Canuck. What's up, Ruben Nieves?
Les Habitants.
So as I was reading, I noticed one particular panel that kind of came rushing back to me from my childhood.
Which one?
It's this one.
Oh my God! I thought I was thinking the same thing, right?
Dude, I drew this. I redrew this like poster size as like a junior high school or high school kid.
How bad is that? That is.
I'm sure you still got it somewhere.
Oh my God! I thought the same thing. What a great panel! What a great panel.
Isn't that like quintessential Wolverine?
Yeah, that's Wolverine in one panel. Yep.
That's my favorite outfit. That brown. That brown is probably my favorite Wolverine uniform. I thought the same exact thing, man. I'm so happy you brought that up because I was about to too.
Yeah, I think 139. I think was the first appearance of the brown suit, and then let's see, there was something else.
Yeah, I actually remember that from reading that before. So now one of the questions that I have about Wolverine is he has these adamant.
I have it to make
the really sharp metal claws. How does he not slice people up?
Well, he has to try not to.
Yeah. How cool is that, man? That is just amazing.
That's
all the action in that panel, man. Crazy.
So yeah, I mean, they would go on to say that like every time Wolverine pops his claws, he's cutting his skin to get them out. So he's experiencing pain every time he pops his claws.
Oh.
But they're razor sharp, man. But I understand what you're saying. How does he not just everybody's walking wounded, right? Because you would think it would get in the way.
Yeah. He's always hacking at the Hulk, or probably in this one at Wendigo, and they're never bloody, but they should be.
Wait, all right. Here's a brief little question, though.
Yeah.
Who would win between Wolverine and Colossus?
Well, Colossus is made of what they call organic steel, which was always kind of nebulous. So if you kind of rank the hardness of these metals in the Marvel Universe, you had the true original adamantium was Captain America's shield.
Okay.
And then you had this like second-rate adamantium that got put in Wolverine that wasn't quite as hard as Cap's shield, because Cap's shield has to be, the best. And then there's everything else. So, there were times when Colossus did endure some amount of damage, but usually it was due to heat or cold or something like that.
I think you got to give it a Wolverine. Where does what is it that they got in Wakanda?
Vibranium.
That's another steel, right?
Yeah.
Vibranium. Yeah.
Which one is the best? Is it
Vibranium?
Vibranium.
Hey, I know some things.
And that's one of the things they haven't really explored in the movies as far as vibranium is like what the properties of it are, that it conducts sound well. That's why they call it vibranium, because I don't know.
But let's not go there because I'm kind of mad right now at Marvel and the MCU because they're not paying Chadwick Boseman what he needs to be paid. But like I said,
I think EIM being 1999 has the best answer.
Yeah.
In response to this.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect answer. That's the perfect answer. We're talking comics.
It's these kind of debates that make comic book fandom so fun.
This is what coffee shops are built for.
This is what me and my friends argued all the time, and in the playground, man.
Right. Here you go. Here's a hero shot for Jim.
Nice.
The Vindicator in the Canadian flag uniform.
God, man, just look at the action in his art, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the best Wendigo ever. He drew Wendigo the best ever. A lot better than Trimp.
Oh, yeah.
By a long shot.
But you're right about the fight scene in this. I mean, the first, like the setup pages are very calm. It's just, it's 4 pages of conversation, and the rest is people trying to escape the Wendigo.
Exactly. And come on, when we were 10, we wanted a comic book with fighting. I'm sorry. Man. That's all we cared about. Is there fighting? When we got one of those filler books that there was nothing going on, it was like, oh my God, this issue sucks. This issue sucks. This was pure action, man. Look at that. Gorgeous art, man. Look at that. And I don't know how to say, I never say when, okay, how is it when, Wendigo?
Wendigo, there you go.
I say Wendigo.
Yeah.
I can't not stop. It's Wendigo. That's how I say it.
Don't ask me to pronounce Thor's hammer.
How about this one? Oh, I can't do that either. Snowbird, right there. God, she's
as Wolverine, yeah.
Oh my goodness, man, she just looks so crazy.
Yeah,
right.
Man.
Oh my God, I love that. You should see the ferocity.
And the thing I noticed about that, it hit me after I was listening to. I found the Drink and Draw coffee. The Drink and Draw Coffee Club or Social Club or something like that.
Yeah.
It's Dave Johnson, the guy that does the covers, the cover artist, Joe Quesada, Dan Panosian, and a couple of other guys I haven't figured out who they are. But they have a guest on, a pro guest, and they talk shop and they draw. But they were talking about how if an artist doesn't know how to draw something, they'll just black it out. So what does John Byrne not know how to draw? Maybe a Wolverine face.
Yeah, I could see that. But you know what? It still works.
Oh yeah,
it still works.
That's the thing about these pro tricks. You never pick up on them until you're told about them.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I never would have thought that either. Because you figured, they know how to draw everything.
Yep.
Right.
To me, he added mystery to it.
One of the things and I don't know. Again, I don't know much about comics. One of the things that I notice is, in so many of these pictures, the background is just like one solid color. And again, it makes the characters just really pop.
Right.
And there's, very few pages is that background the same color, for each panel kind of thing. So right. I don't understand why it's like that, but I find that interesting, and I like being able to see the characters and they're not like lost in the scenery in the background.
Yeah, when they do have scenery, it's appropriate and not overworked and distracting.
Yeah.
I think Dave Enrique's point here about the friendship between Wolverine and Nightcrawler, and I think even not necessarily in this, but the development between those two and Colossus is like the kind of the 3 kind of workmen of the X-Men, where Cyclops is kind of the leader, Storm's a little bit more she's a lady and also like a princess and things like that, or not a princess but was worshipped as a godlike figure in Africa and things like that. But the bond between Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Colossus, to me, during this generation, was one of the things that really appealed to me most about the X-Men. The fact that you had three so different kind of personalities, and that's what happens in life. You get people with different personalities that connect and really kind of form a family.
It just seemed like the writing was different back then. It's just they took more of their time and they built it up. I remember the first time I read an X-Men comic, I was like, my God, there's so much dialogue.
Oh yeah, this took me like at least a half hour to read.
Yeah.
I was like, my goodness, you compare this to any comic today, and it's like, it's night and day.
I know, right? That's why it kind of breaks my heart when people will pay full price for an X-Men nowadays. It takes 10 minutes to get through. I mean, the art in them is it's good. Is it as good as this? Sometimes it's as good. Sometimes it's better. But just the story content is not what it used to be. I mean, there is a lot of dialogue and a lot, to go with the action on this spread.
Yep.
Man, look at that panel right there with Wendigo and Nightcrawler. My goodness, that's awesome.
It is.
God. No, and also something you brought up earlier that Claremont used to do, you would get more backstory. He would always like to go back and fill you in, and issue as seen in issue 35, or it's like, what happened in 35? It's like it was a different time, definitely.
Right. Someone was mentioning how it's definitely harkens back to Hulk 181 and 182.
Yeah.
But also, the fact that Alpha Flight's here, it harkens back to 119 or 120 or something like that when the team's introduced in the book. So here we are 20 issues later. So there you go. Claremont coming in a year and a half later, picking up on story threads he left.
That's interesting you said, because I was reading, I wish I can remember what it was I was reading recently, but it always had a little asterisk in that bottom say, see issue 33 or see issue whatever. Because they make reference to something and say, see issue whatever. I'm like, well, that comes in handy. I wonder if that annoys people that have been around, that know comics, because I'm like, for me, not knowing anything, I'm like, this is great. Now I have a reference point to go back to. Or is that?
I mean, they call those editor's notes, and I think they really are very helpful, especially for newer readers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've just gotten so much history behind us since then.
That's a good point.
That I mean, how many times has Wolverine fought Wendigo now? Well, I guess not that many times actually, but that's a real bad example. So how many times has Spider-Man fought the Green Goblin though?
Oh my God, countless.
Yeah,
countless. But I read Donny Cates, and he's been using that somewhat. Like I think I've seen him do it in some Venom books. As issue, check issue, and go back. But it's rarely seen today. It's rarely seen.
Yeah, it'd be 1999 says the work looks similar to Byrne Hogarth. I'm sure John Byrne probably studied Byrne Hogarth to achieve his style. Hogarth was very influential to this era of cartoonists.
You brought up another good point. Alpha Flight came a year and a half until they brought them back.
Mm-hmm.
They had patience. It seemed like they had patience,
Yeah.
I've noticed that with a lot of characters, like Moon Knight's first appearance, he didn't come up again a few years later. There was a few examples of that. I think Shang-Chi was the same thing. They just didn't. They introduced them, and then they got us excited about, hey, when's this guy gonna come back? And then they would pop back up, and I was like, oh, cool.
Was it not a thing to do spin-offs like that as much? I mean, because that happens a lot more now, doesn't it? Where there's
another year, probably a year to 2 years, maybe not even that long. Alpha Flight will get their own title after this appearance, done, written and drawn by John Byrne.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a good run.
Yeah.
very underrated and it's very undervalued, but it's actually a very good run. I enjoyed it. I think I still have it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, Coach Vic. So, what was going on? Like you said, we've covered 1980 before, but what else have you dug up, just history-wise? What was going on in the world?
All right. Let's see. The Empire Strikes Back came out. I'm pretty sure I said it the last time, but
1980. I think 1980 was a murderer's row for movies that year, right?
Yes, it was. Let's see. The Far Side debuted in January 1st.
Wow.
And Bloom County,
The Far Side.
and Bloom County, December 18th. Oh, here's something for a Cuban American. Rosie Reeves won the Boston Marathon.
I don't know who that is.
But this is brilliant. 8 days later, she lost the title because they realized she jumped in a half a mile to the end of the race.
I know who she is. I remember that. That was a big scandal.
Now, this is something I thought was really interesting. Paul Goodell, convicted of second-degree murder in 1911, was released from prison after serving 68 years, 245 days of a 20-year sentence. He's the longest person to ever be released from prison after being in prison.
Huh.
It's interesting. Right before he's getting ready to get released, they determined that he was mentally ill.
Wow.
And so they moved him to a different wing, and they kept moving him to different parts of prison. It's a really interesting story. The best-selling arcade game of all time came out. Any guesses?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man Fever. Let's see. Yeah, we boycotted the Moscow Olympics. The Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, New York. Do you believe in miracles? We beat the USSR in the semifinal round that won the gold medal. Steelers won their fourth Super Bowl. Islanders won the Stanley Cup. The Phillies beat the Kansas City Royals in the World Series, which always makes me happy. And, since I've been home, I've been watching Boy Meets World on Disney Plus. So this last thing really rings a bell with me. Ben Savage was born. September 13th.
It's the little things that bring you joy, huh? It's the little things.
Yes.
I said this a couple of times. I've never felt my age until I started doing YouTube. When I hear people mention they were born in 1989, the year I graduated, like that, this is cray.
Try working with youth when you hear it constantly. I'm born in 2000. Like what?
Dude, it hurts, doesn't it?
It does.
Like Chad 90, he was born the year I graduated. I think he was born after I graduated high school. And now I'm hanging out with him. It's like, what's wrong here?
Right.
He grew up and I stayed the same.
Hey, Mark Knapp, thanks for stopping in. Good to see you, bud.
What's going on, Mark? Man Cave, what's going on, Man Cave? Oh my God.
It's Man Cave. Hey, good to see you, Man Cave. Oh man. So
Knights of Old is here also. Wow. What's up, man? Yeah, Wendigo.
Ed Perry, talk about the age difference. Perry Comics stopping in.
Yeah.
Perry, when did you graduate high school? Let's put it that way.
This one's gonna hurt. You want to take any bets?
Oh,
I'm gonna say he graduated in 2012.
Man, that does hurt if that's the truth.
yeah. I was going to say 2015, but yeah.
Pete Perry's one of the. I don't want to say he's one of the big names, but he's done real well for himself doing YouTube. He's got crazy amount of subs.
He works hard at it.
He does.
Well deserved. So, Mr. Gretzky. Oh man, I almost got it.
2011, man.
2011, I almost got it.
Jeez, 91. I'm so old.
My God, 91.
All right, so if Ben were here, I'd ask him to kind of examine the story structure of this thing. But I mean, story structure wise, it really is pretty much just a quiet opening scene followed by just a mad rush of action from until the end.
Hey, we haven't. This is an amazing cover.
Oh yeah,
this cover is just amazing. Yeah. I love the lady with the baby in her arms.
Oh yeah,
the dread, and you see all the fallen heroes. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going on here?
Yeah, man,
so good.
But Hialeah, will it make your top 50?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my favorite X-Men cover. I adore this book. I just adore this book. Definitely.
So, are the X-Men your favorite heroes then, easily, or do you have others who could rank up there?
Yeah, I know how you feel about that thing versus Superman.
The what? The what Superman?
That 2-in-1 Marvel thing is Superman.
Oh no, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yes, that's my.
I wrote Spider-Man.
Yeah, I adore that book too. It's Jim Starlin. It's Marvel 2-in-1 annual number 2. That book is those are probably two of my favorites up there, top 5 for sure.
Is that one that's part of the Thanos?
Oh, it's the second part.
Yeah, I've got that too.
I got that book early on too, and it just blew my mind. And I think that's the book that really got me reading comics. And that book, I read it recently also, and it still holds up. The X-Men, I was a huge X-Men fan. I'm not gonna say that I still love them, but I read a lot more indie books now. Not so much the superhero.
Okay.
That's what I just tend to read now. I do read. I like Donny Cates, which like a lot of people, and it's for good reason because he's giving everything he touches. He gives it a different twist, and he takes it different places. And you might not always like it, but it's new, and he makes the stories feel new. So I'm really enjoying Heroes because of him. But I mainly read like the horror books, and I'm not a horror guy, but I tend to be going that way because it's just the stories are a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still love the X-Men though. I can't wait to see them again on the big screen.
Oh yeah, man!
That's gonna be great.
Marvel in charge is going to be so good.
Excuse me?
Said with Marvel in charge of the movies, it's going to be so good.
It's going to be crazy. I cannot wait for Fantastic Four also done right. The Silver Surfer. That's another hero that's a lot of people call him the big crybaby, but I absolutely adore him. I love the Silver Surfer. I think the design is just so freaking cool,
So this was X-Men 140, and the partnership between Byrne and Claremont only lasted 2 more issues beyond this, 3 more issues.
3 more issues.
They were done with 143.
Yeah. And that's a great book too. Have you ever read that one?
Oh yeah.
It's the Solo Kitty story with kind of like an aliens.
Right, in the mansion or something, right?
Yeah, man, at the Christmas issue. Great, great story.
So it'd be interesting to see like what the sales numbers were. I looked into this a little bit, but I left my notes in my office. I mean, we always think of this era so highly, but it took so long for them really to gain steam sales wise. I think by this time, they're beyond the Phoenix saga and things like that. They're really hitting their stride with it, but it's almost like as soon as they really got the payoff sales wise, the band broke up after this.
Yeah.
Then you get a short, well, I don't know if it's short, it's another 10 or 12 issues with Dave Cockrum back on the book.
Right.
Sorry to say, as a kid, Dave Cockrum following John Byrne just didn't hold water. It's great an artist as he is too.
But it's not the same. It's 2 different spectrums.
Yeah.
2 different spectrums. And the thing is, when they kind of broke up, it gave the doorway for George Perez, Marv Wolfman to come in with the DC's answer of the New Teen Titans, and that one kind of took off, and it was just another amazing run, but with DC.
Yep. Yeah, I collected those books too, and some of the Legion of Superheroes from that era too. Yeah. And they were all doing the same kind of soap opera-y kind of. That's pretty much how they were. And I think that was, other than Byrne working on Fantastic Four, I don't think there was a whole lot of that going on where it was really continuing stories from one issue to another, for very long. And especially something like the Dark Phoenix saga that they started in 101, essentially, and it lasted 36 issues.
Yeah, to the conclusion, right? You don't see that anymore, man. It's a build-up. The build-up, and that's actually the same thing that the New Teen Titans did when they started. Remember the final conflict with Deathstroke? Mm-hmm. They introduced Terra, and that goes for like another 15 issues until you finally discover what's really going on.
Yeah.
It was great, man. It was so good. The build-up.
That's a book I hope we get to do someday. Or it's hard because you really do have to read like the build up to that to really get the impact of that happening.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you.
Dave Enrique says, I always felt Shooter handled the rift between Byrne and Claremont beautifully by giving Byrne the FF.
And he had a great run.
I'd have to go back and look at the timeline. I think Byrne had started FF before he left this. I'm not sure that he was both writing and drawing. I think he might have been drawing it for a little while before also taking over the writing. But that's another thing that, I mean, we talk about Kirby as a workhorse. Byrne consistently did 3 titles a month for years at Marvel during this era. And I mean, we kind of pick up on it when we see him doing like Marvel Team Up, and he did a few issues of Marvel 2-in-1 here and there, but he did Avengers for a while, Fantastic Four, of course,
Alpha
Flight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was prolific and great work, man.
Yeah,
amazing stuff, because his FF stuff's amazing too.
Yeah.
So was it just him, or do you have a team of people under him, or was it just all him?
I don't know if he inked himself on Fantastic Four or not, but of course on this he had Terry Austin inking him, and I'm betting anywhere else that he was doing stuff he had an inker with him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to say that inking is half the work, but I mean, just you think about other artists struggle to keep up with an issue a month, and he was penciling 3 a month.
And wasn't he writing also?
Yeah, he got a plotter credit on this issue.
But I mean, wasn't he writing FF or?
Yeah, he wrote FF, and like we said, he wrote Alpha Flight too.
That's crazy. I guess I'm going back to Donny Cates, but Donny Cates is kind of like the same. He writes so many titles.
Yeah, and he's creating that sense of some connective tissue between the books too.
Yeah, with everything he does. But he also writes for Image. He does what is it? Oh my God, Redneck. He does what is the one with the little vampire kid? I forget what it's called. But he does a few.
I'd never heard the story that Mr. Gretzky mentions about Louis Simonson being involved with the kind of the split. I know she was brought in as an editor. Yeah, she was the editor on this issue. I'll have to dig into that and find out more of the history there. So yeah, issue 140 of the X-Men. I mean, you could pretty much pick any issue of the Byrne X-Men run, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But this one, you're right. It's a very memorable book.
Action packed.
It's action, and it goes into the Days of Future Past, man. 2 epic issues, epic storyline arc for 2 issues.
Yeah.
What stuff came from those 2 issues?
One of the things that I did kind of like too is, how they have the inner dialogue, and like I think there's one of the panels where Wendigo slams Wolverine into a tree, and I think like out loud he's like, "Oh, that hurt," but inside it's like this 35-word thought bubble. It was really humorous to me. Yeah. That was so funny to me.
I like this theme.
Yep.
That pretty much is it all right there.
I just love that book, man. It's funny you brought up the Marvel 2-in-1 because I almost brought that. I almost chose that book. It was between this one and that one. So.
Which
not east to west.
Man, you've been doing your homework, man. I like it. You've been doing your homework. That's my all-time favorite book.
East to West, the series?
The series. That's my favorite series.
I read that. I read a bunch of those. I really like those.
Oh my God, that is so intense.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, there's so much stuff going on. It's a hard read, but my God, it is so well done, man. It's so good.
I've never heard anything but good stuff about it, but I've not had a chance to read it myself.
The art's amazing.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's amazing art when you really get into the book. It's like, oh my goodness, man, this is so powerful. East to West. What else did you find out, Mr. Vic, Coach?
How did I learn about it?
What else did you find? No, about me. What else did you find? What other nuggets did you pick up?
Well, we haven't talked about the luchadors.
Oh, the luchadors.
We went to like a museum or a store that sold masks.
I got those online, man, and I just figured nobody was doing the mask luchadors, so I got to go with that. You know, I think the first wrestler ever when I was a kid was Mil Máscaras. Mil Máscaras, that he would take off all the masks, and so I go, man, I'll do the mask. Nobody's thought about the mask, so I'll do the mask.
This is great. All right.
I tried to do research.
No, hey, man. In my book, you're the true Kamagories champion instead of this guy. This guy could not have done what he did without you. All right, I just want to give you props.
I had a great ringman, quarterman, whatever.
Hey man, that Saturday before on your Saturday show, you were 0 for 4. You know, you were done. You were high in the water. I was keeping score in the chat, man.
Yeah, man.
Look at you. You're a freaking Kamagori champion. Almost repeated. You should have in my book. But yeah, man, it's all because of Coach Vic, man. Don't fool yourself.
Did you see the behind bars cover that I have that I could have pulled?
Yes, you put that on Instagram, didn't you?
I found another one. I found a better one.
Oh my goodness! Or you put it on this Saturday? You maybe on this Saturday's show? I know I saw it. Yeah, man, it was all Coach Vic, man. Don't listen to this guy. Don't believe. Oh my goodness, look at this. Wow. Yeah, make yourself big. Let's see that. What does it say?
Thanks to the Riddler, you're behind bars where you belong, Batman.
Oh.
I'll kick myself forever.
It's hard, but the thing is, I've been on that show too, man, and it's almost like when you have a conversation and you think to yourself after the conversation, damn, I should have said this. I should have said that. What was I thinking? Well, you know, that's what that show is.
Yeah. I
should have pulled this one. I should have pulled that one. It's like, why did I try to get too smart? You know, I should have just gone. God. I don't know if I want to do that show again, man, because I always left pissed.
Dude, it stressed me out so
Well,
much.
I will say Jamie
for that show.
Jamie is a legend apparently, because even Saturday you're like, well, we always have Jay Hood to talk about that 9/8 book.
Hey, that was great, man. That was awesome. That was awesome.
We actually have slabbed in the 9/8.
What's that?
9/8 book, man. Look, this is to me. This is my
9/8.
It's awesome, man.
All right. So we'll start wrapping this up. Fantastic, Mr. Cheese. You have any last words or any last comments for the book or our guest?
Well, you know, I was actually wondering, you're Cuban and you're into comics, and is there how much crossover is there? I know almost nothing about both. And so is there much crossover?
Make a mean sandwich.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, finish your cut.
Oh, no. I was just wondering if there's some kind of crossover or something that as, you know, being somebody who's Cuban, you can really glom on to in the comic world, you know, for whatever reason kind of thing. So.
Okay. I'm okay. My wife is like, I thought, you know, actually today's 13 years since I met my wife. We had a blind date 13 years ago. And she was like, I thought you were going to talk with the heavy accent and all this. I didn't know I was going to get a Cuban white boy. So I love rock. I love American history. I'm into history. I don't know how to dance Spanish. I'll dance Spanish music, but it ain't nice. It ain't a pretty thing, and I have to have a few of these, you know. I am a white boy. My dad used to take us to the comic book store. I used to go to my braces to get my braces tightened and all that, and my dad used to take us to a shop, right? And he would give $20 for both me and my brother. And back then, that was like 20 books, 30 books, 40 books, you know. And I remember my brother one time brought up a Thor. I'll never forget it. A Thor 126. It's the first when Journey into Mystery turns into Thor. It's that classic cover with Hercules, and it was $5. And my dad, I remember holding the book, and he's looking at me, and I was like, my brother brought it to him, and I was like, oh my God, he's gonna buy that? Wow! And my dad's like, are you sure this is worth $5? See, see. You know, these are called muñequitos. You know, they're just the basically the muñequitos translates into the funnies, I guess. I don't know. It's not a direct translation. For my dad, this was like, is this worth it? Are you guys sure? But it's what you guys like. But is this gonna be worth money someday? It's like, see, Poppy, see, you know, it is, you know. And my dad didn't get to see me on YouTube. He didn't get to see me having my room, but he saw that I had my collection. I took care of it. You know, even when I was out of it, I always kept my boxes in a good place. And he knew what they were, you know, that they were. But I wish my dad would have made it to see me on YouTube. He would be nuts. Even though, you know, he would be freaking out. You know, oh my God, these are the same books you guys bought when you were kids. You know, getting your braces. You know, 50-cent books. You know. No, I'm a white boy, man. I love Led Zeppelin. I got Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon tattooed on my back. I love Radiohead. Oh man, I love this country, man. Best. I could never thank my parents enough.
I think that the one thing my mom said about my comic book habit or hobby as a kid was, well, he's not spending it on drugs or alcohol or whatever.
That's what my wife says now. You know, you're not at the strip club. You're not this. You're not getting. You're talking to other guys that are just into the same stuff that you're into, and we can ask for anything more, man. We're talking comics, and I'm gonna be 51. Never in a million years would I have thought that I could still be 12, hanging out with my friends, meeting new friends, with the love of something that I've always loved. It's just never in a million. Man, blessed. I am blessed. It's a great hobby, and I love it. I love it. I love it, and I don't care how you collect, man. You're a collector. You like comics. You read them digitally. You don't even own one. I don't care. That's awesome, man. You're part of the community, and that's what it's all about, man. It's just a great hobby. Great hobby.
I think that's what you said right there really sums up really well what the YouTube online comic book community is about. That anybody with, you know, any kind of collecting habit or niche or whatever they're into, they come in and we just root for each other.
Yeah, man. I get happy when somebody gets a great book. Man, when you got that AOK from Kenny, the Fantastic Four 55.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I knew you were getting that book before you got that book. I just wanted to know that, and I was like, "Wow, man!" And that's a beautiful copy. Oh my God, Kenny, he's gonna love that. And I was giddy for you because I knew how you were gonna feel when you got that. You know, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I love that. I love the feeling I get when I'm doing like sketch covers and stuff like that. And I'm working on a piece for Kavi, Comic Books NYC right now. I'm like, I want to show him this drawing so bad. And I'm like, no, I just got to wait till it's done and send it to him so he can have the big reveal.
Yeah,
I want to shout out the Boyad 7, the Comigories host and the channel to go to for everything Comigories. Thanks for stopping in, Matt.
What's up, Matt? Hey, man. What Matt did on Saturday? Kudos to you, brother.
Oh yeah.
Kudos to you.
All right, Coach Vic 7, do you have any last words for this evening?
No, actually.
It's not often I get to speak.
That's the crazy thing all night, right? Coach Vic is nuts.
I think I've used all my words and asked all my questions.
Checking his notes. All right. So we'll wrap this up, and I'll mention our plans for our next episode of Issue at Hand is going to be on May 19th at 9 p.m. We have a new person that represents a group of guys that I've known for a long time. Not that I know them personally, but I've known of them. I've consumed their content for years. We're going to have Brian Salazar from the Around Comics podcast. Now, these guys started back in the early 2000s.
Wow.
Yeah, early 2000s doing podcasts. And one of the things we don't realize here in the YouTube current comic book community is this kind of thing has happened before on different platforms. And these guys were a big part of the comic book podcast movement back in that era. And so there's a group of three guys. It's Brian Salazar, Kristen Niesman, and oh crap, I forgot the third guy. But that's what happens when I get put on the spot. So they're coming to YouTube. When I started doing, like, figuring out what I was going to do with my YouTube channel, things like that, I was kind of looking for maybe partners to bring in and team up. And I was going to approach one of these guys, but they had started doing their podcast again. But now just recently, like just in the last 2 weeks, they've started posting YouTube content. So look them up. I'll shout them out again. It's Around Comics. Their first 2 episodes, they interviewed Tony Moore, co-creator of The Walking Dead.
Oh, wow.
And in their second episode, they interviewed writer Andy Parks, who's written a number of things. And so they're kind of bringing back some of the people they're familiar with that are, creators and that kind of thing. But they pretty much just do what we do. They get together and talk about the comics they're interested in. So we'll have Brian Salazar on from Around Comics, and the issue we are going to cover is, where's my copy?
Can you put a link to their YouTube in the description?
I will. And this is the book we're going to do.
Oh, nice.
Daredevil 181, another classic Bronze Age book. So, yeah, I'll put a link in the description when we're done. And again, May 19th at 9 o'clock. And we look forward to seeing to that. But thanks again, Hialeah, for coming on. It's been a great hour discussion. Great to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you.
Go over a great book like X-Men 140. I hadn't taken the time to open it up in years, and it's always a great joy when you get to go back to like a childhood favorite and thumb through it again. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a blast.
You bet. We'll do it again.
For sure.
So remember, everyone, faith, family, comic books. We'll see you next time.
Be good, everybody. Good night.